Hey, Dana.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Heidi.
Jeff, I wanted to say thank you. I got your card. It meant a lot to me and Todd and Garrett. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. I was thinking about you. So,
Thank you. It
and
meant a
again,
lot.
my door's always open. So,
Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We have about 20 people that are going to be on this call today. But we want to stay on time, and I know that Michelle has a lot to cover. Hi, Seth. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to do some housekeeping really quick and go over a few Zoom rules for you guys, and then I want to give you an update on what Autism Tree has been doing during shelter in place. All right, so just a reminder to please mute yourself when you're not speaking, and we recommend speaker view for presentation, and sharing your video is of course optional. We love seeing your faces and feeling connected, so if you can share your video, please do. Please put all questions and comments into our chat bar, and we will have time at the end for our special guest today, Michelle McGowan, to answer questions, and I know there's going to be questions about the topics that she's covering today. So a little update on what we've been up to at Autism Tree. If you don't already know, when shelter in place went into effect, our chairman of the board, Todd Hoff, was the one that created these weekly lunch and learns, and as a way for us to stay connected and cover important topics that are happening for our families right now. And since that, and since everything happened back in March, we've reached over almost 250,000 people through our social media, which is really incredible. It's a larger number than we've ever reached in our history. So it's really, really incredible that we've been able to reach an even wider audience during this time. We've also had our social media shared, our posts shared over 440 times. And that's also a big number for us because we weren't having a lot of shares prior to shelter in place, but now that pretty much everyone's online, everything's online, and people are using our content in a whole new way. We've also now have 134 impact videos on our YouTube channel.
Wow.
Rebecca will put the link in the chat bar during this workshop today. If you are not already a YouTube subscriber, it's really easy, it's free. You just hit subscribe, and it means you're gonna follow our YouTube channel, and then anytime we post a new video, you would get an update. And you can also share that with your network if you like. But it's incredible that we also have almost 150 videos. We've posted 96 of those since March 10th. So a vast majority of the videos that we've done have been done over the last 90 days, and all because of what we've been forced to do because of quarantine and COVID. Our Reading with Autism Tree series, if you haven't yet read a children's book, I know Jeff has done one. Looking at Heidi though, because I know she hasn't done one. John's boys have done one. If you haven't yet done one and you want to do one, we're doing a Reading with ATPF series. If you want to read a children's book, we'd love to have you film yourself reading a book for fun for our kids. And we've done 24 of those, and we've gotten over 25,000 people reached to those videos. So almost over 1,000 people per video are watching those, which is really incredible. Since March 28th exactly, we've hosted 48 virtual events, and we have 15 coming up between now and the end of June. So if you haven't yet attended a virtual event or want to get your kiddos signed up, we'll send a link for our events calendar where you can see our whole calendar of everything that's happening. And we've been very fortunate that we were able to transition 17 of our 20 programs to be virtual during this time. And as things begin to open back up in the state of California, following CDC guidelines, following the governor's guidelines in the next, I would say 90 days, 3 months, we will be looking at what it looks like to potentially start to reopen some of those programs, but they're gonna look very, very different than they did before, which is okay. I don't think it'll always be that way, but it'll be that way for now. But that's also very exciting and of course challenging for our team to be able to adapt to that. I'm going to pass it over to Dana Hoff, our volunteer executive director and founder, and she's going to introduce our special guest speaker, Michelle McGowan, today.
Hi, TPF family. I just you know, each time, this is our 8th Lunch and Learn, and I just have, I guess on each one I've been reflecting how much they've meant to me. And I hadn't watched all the different videos that have been posted for a while. And last night I spent hours kind of reflecting on just where we started in COVID-19 and where we are right now. And I just feel very, very blessed by everybody. Our team has exceeded my imagination with where we're going and what we're doing, and that doesn't change. It's a day-to-day thing. And it's sort of like everything that I already believed is like magnified in 3D. And right now I wanted to tell you, I know we're being barraged more than we ever have, and we're all so different. We have, you know, we've covered it before if you haven't heard me talk about it, that we have 724 trillion cells that make us us. And that gives us unlimited possibilities. And I really want you to know how much that just means to me. In every video I was watching last night, and in each Lunch and Learn, every speaker from Wendy, who kicked it off, to Bobby Hannah, to Justin, Matthew, Jeff, Marilee, and Otto last week. If you weren't there to go back and watch them, it really touches me at a cell level and gives me some kind of fuel to see. I'm looking at things in a different way. I'm seeing people's heart like I've never seen it before. I can see people's heartbeat. Honestly, I think I used to feel heartbeats in the early years and even before COVID. And now when I'm watching people, even on these Zoom calls, I absolutely, even if what they're saying is sad and upsetting, or they're crying or whatever, I'm seeing their heart in their eyes, in their vibrations. That's not something I remember myself talking about, is people's vibrations. But I found myself, when I was watching so many videos I hadn't seen that are on the ATPF YouTube, I was just so lit up seeing all these people in our ATPF family, from interns to our kids, to our team, to the Lunch and Learns. The vibrations and the heartbeat is so unique, so present, so real. It's what we all need right now. We need that. We need healing. And how are we going to get healing? Is to find those parts in ourselves that are good. And that means, like, we have all this talk in our heads, we all do, and there's a lot of darkness and a lot of negativity and a lot of confusion, and there's no way around that. But when we just kind of take a moment to refuel and listen to our own selves, my strongest feeling I wanted to say to you today, if you take anything away from me, I want to say my word for these Zoom calls and you all being here is thankful. And I don't know if you guys can type in or think of a positive word right now, which really would convey how you feel. Even if it's not your primary feeling, find that positive word that you really mean. Like, we have to go back. We know the power of words. They're healing. And I've said before, when I come on the Zoom call, I feel like I'm really trying to bring you a flower. And I want you to see color and feel good when you leave the Zoom call. And when I leave the Zoom call, or I even go back and reflect, I feel like you guys gave me a bouquet. I feel that. I don't feel any weeds. I don't feel negentropy. You know, negentropy is when things are, you know, falling apart. They're not falling apart when we're together. They're not. We're building something. And the other thing that really, really strikes me, I've thought about it really deeply. I spent hours just looking at all the videos and being in gratitude for each of you. And if you haven't done a video, please do one, so I can be grateful and just look at you and just feel whatever you're into. There's one video that makes me laugh a lot if you haven't seen it. It's one of our NCL girls, and she puts her chicken on a skateboard, and she just wants people to laugh. If you haven't seen some of these videos, it's just a reflection of what Autism Tree is. It's a family, and I want you to know how grateful I am. And there's a video that I saw that is kind of staying with me, and kind of like a metaphor or a picture for what I want to give you is, if you could wake up every day and I could greet you and give you 2 seeds like Sam Trink did with her son Parker on the farming video. They're doing it in a flower bed, and then they're doing it in little mason jars, and they're saying push the seed down and it's going to take a little bit to grow. And that's what I wish I could do for you every day. I just wish I could say good morning and how much you mean to me and Autism Tree, and whatever you've ever done for this foundation. If I don't know directly, I just know that everybody who's on this call is a giver. You are giving, you are building, and I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't keep volunteering here at Autism Tree if I just didn't feel so much, because like you all, I get very, very exhausted, and the most random things will happen. I'll plant one seed and then I'm going to introduce Michelle. So if you'll bear with me, I was saying on our pre-call with Michelle that I'm not thrilled that I've been so emotional on these calls. That's not my intention. And I really wanted to not be so emotional on this call, but kind of what I did want to do is like just share with you a day in like what my life has been like, because I don't talk to anybody. Not lately. I'm just very much trying to help Todd heal. He's my husband, if you don't know that, and we're the co-founders of Autism Tree. We lost his mom Memorial Day weekend, and she was a huge part of the Autism Tree. So my seeds kind of love that I'm sowing every day for probably quite a while is on for Todd to heal. If anybody's lost their parent, it just takes a long time. It takes a really, really long time. And the quote I used last time is that, you just have to learn how to live differently, because the life was there were so intricately woven into the fabric of your daily life. So my seeds of love are greatly going to that right now. But when I come to the Zoom call, I so want you to know that I value your time, and that I want to know like that you're feeling like you're getting something out of it. And when I talk about sowing seeds, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, because I know some people on the call are younger and you're just kind of starting out launching your lives. But when you sow seeds, it takes a long time. I mean, that's one thing that I've learned over 16 years with Autism Tree. And yesterday, Garrett and I went and connected with Lisa when she takes Brecken to see Bobby Hanna at the OT on the Point. So that was such a gift to actually see Lisa in person. And really, when I looked at my calendar, this weekend we were supposed to be having, if it was a normal situation, we would have been bringing everyone together as much as possible for a summer family party, which we've done before with Autism Tree, and I hope we'll do again. And we were going to be also celebrating Lisa having her baby. And I'm planting a seed that we will figure out how to do that, whether it's before Lisa has her second baby that she's pregnant with. She's going to have to stand up in this call if everybody doesn't know. Lisa, when's your due date?
My due date is August 9th. So I have a little 10 weeks to go.
I'm planning a seed ATPF family that we will figure out how to have a summer real party and also get to celebrate this new edition. And then I just, I don't know if you know, but Todd took a new job, and thankfully that's why he's running a hospital back here in San Diego, but it's based out of Pennsylvania. So we're going to be going back there for his job, and I was on a call with this woman yesterday about the planning of the trip. She's a travel agent. And it was just interesting. I was just being present, and all of a sudden I said, oh, well, it was all for Todd's work, but I said, I'm coming and I run an autism foundation, and I started talking about it, but right away she interrupted me and said, I have a 15-year-old son with autism. And I found myself listening to her for an hour about how she was separated from her son during COVID, and really, really deeply touched me because she kept saying how blessed she was, how difficult it was, but how blessed she was by the hospital he went to and all the people that were praying and what a difference it made. And I just thought, this is incredible to me that this woman I don't know is so full of love. She feels like an autism tree. She felt like she could have been Sandy Anderson's sister, for anyone that knows Sandy. And it just reaffirms that when we're going through really hard stuff, which we are, we have to be able to see our blessings. It's so important to count them. And that's kind of what this lady was doing for like 45 minutes. It was really intense stuff. She got separated from her child. He had to be hospitalized. It was intense. And I didn't feel upset like I normally would. I felt really drawn to her, and it was because she kept saying how blessed she was and how much everyone cared. And that's what I want people to feel at Autism Tree. I want people to feel that. I want to inspire you to count your blessings. That's what we've been doing this whole time. And the impact Lisa just shared with you, it's fully incredible. And Michelle, it's a perfect time to introduce you, because when you think about it, what one person can do. And I found this quote, and it was like, this is how I want to introduce Michelle, because the first time I met Michelle at an Autism Tree office core team meeting, and I think Todd and Garrett were there, and Michelle shared her story about her sons, and it literally touched me as an entire being. I got up out of my chair and went over and hugged Michelle and just was like, she's incredible. So Michelle, this quote I found a while ago. This is not from yesterday or the day before. Knowing that you were, as soon as I knew you were gonna do a lunch and learn, this just reminded me so much of you. There are 1,000 different ways to get noticed, and most are a gamble. The easiest way to create an impact is to do it one person at a time with truth and conviction and love. And Michelle, I think you nail that. You always nail that. You live it. You are that one person that is making a difference. And today is no accident that we are so blessed to be able to have you speak to us. We're all going to learn, including me, and it's all extraordinarily timely and very important given the landscape of our country. So with deep love and gratitude, you all, I'm just thankful.
Thank you.
I'm so thankful.
Thank you. I am humbled by that. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michelle McGowan, and I am a special education advocate. I am a lay person, so none of the advice that I'll be giving you today is legal advice. It is based on my experience and my training in special education advocacy. So just to let you know about that. I have been an advocate for about 12 years now, and I adopted 3 little boys that were formerly my foster children. And there they are, my amazing little boys. So the is James, the one in the striped shirt is Aaron, and the oldest is Alex. Aaron will be 6 on Friday. James turned 8 rather, in March, and Alex will be 9 in September. And they are amazing little boys. And this is really a hard time for me right now because of all that's going on with race relations. And I have 3 boys of color, as you can see. So I will try not to be overly emotional today. So we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of IEPs and school closures at the moment. And there's 43 school districts here in San Diego County, and each of them is doing something different. And you can see there's my website and my email address if you would like to, and a Facebook, if you would like to get a hold of me. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today, the links will be on my website, so you can check that out. But we're kind of, go ahead and go to the next slide. We're talking about the school closures, what's going on in this time. They're still in flux. We still haven't got the directives that we're waiting for. I believe they're coming out next week from the governor's office about what his plans are for school and what they're going to be doing. And each school, I work with all of the school districts, and each one seems to be doing a little bit different. But it seems like this e-learning is going to be continued, which is kind of good. I think a lot of parents have had some good experience with it. I know I've learned a lot about my own sons through this experience. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So we thought that we were going to get through this distance learning fairly quickly when we all started out, but it looks like we're really in a holding phase, and even in its stage 2. And I think it's going to go, you know, a lot of companies around town and stuff are saying that they're not going to be going back to work anytime soon. A lot of government offices are saying they're not looking at going back and bringing everybody back until September, October. So I don't see how we're going to bring the schools back in the capacity that we had them, that it looks like an all-day class with everybody there, and it's going to look different. And this is going to be hard for our kiddos to adjust to. You know, it's going to be hard for them to make those adjustments, especially if behavior of non-compliance was one of their issues, and the need for routine. And this is going to look all so much different than what they have had for how many ever years that they've been in school. And I know that this is going to cause a significant problem for my son. And a little bit of background about James. James had been severely neglected and abused, and he had been locked in a 3-by-3 foot cave-like enclosure for the first 2.5 years of his life. And when he came to me, he didn't even know his name. So he has a lot of issues with routine and needing to feel safe and secure, and all those things that trauma brings along with the autism diagnosis. And so for him to go back, and he does have a 1-to-1 aide with him all day long, but she's going to have to be distanced from him. She's going to have to be 6 feet from him. What happens when he needs her to be right next to him, when he needs that comforting, when he needs that security? What is that going to look like, and how are we going to address that? And so when we're going back, we need to be looking at those kinds of needs as well, not just the educational need, not just the academic need, but the social need. How do we transition? This was an abrupt transition out of school, and I don't know how many of you saw an escalation in behavior or a regression in behavior when that happened, because now I've lost all of my supports, I've lost all of my friends, I've lost all of my routine, and now I have to come up with a new routine. And now mom is all those people, or dad, or whoever that caregiver is that's providing that educational and sometimes physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, right? And this has been a big adjustment for our kids. And we need to bear that in mind, and we need to ensure that when we're getting them back, that we're making that transition back. So we just had an IEP for James. I will be retaining James because I believe that it is in his best interest for him to be retained, because while he is doing excellent academically, he has hyperlexia, meaning that he can read anything, he can decode anything, and while his comprehension is increasing, he still struggles with that. But he's reading 6th grade books with ease, and he's in 2nd grade. But I cannot recreate that social emotional component that is school. I cannot recreate a classroom where he struggles to comply and to be a part of it and to follow the rules, and where where his manifestation of his disability. And I never like to refer to things when I'm talking to the school as behavior. I think behavior implies the child has a choice and that they're doing this willfully. And I believe that if we change while we're talking to people about behavior and refer it to it as a manifestation of their disability, then we more accurately describe what is going on, but we also change people's perception of it. Because the word behavior is associated with a lot of things, and some of those things are negative. Most of those things are negative, especially when you're talking with children, but they imply a willfulness and a choice. And for our kids, it's not a choice. It is how they function. All right, so on to the next slide, because I know I have only a few minutes to do this. So on this next slide, you're going to see, and I'm trying to keep up with these different views and see everybody, because it's so weird to sit here and talk to yourself. And so on here, and Rebecca has this presentation, and you can email her and she can give it to you, because each of these has a link to them that we won't be able to go into. But if she was to click on that Department of Education or on that support, the Department of Education website would come up and it would give you the latest information about what the governor's office is putting out. Okay, so the links are all there to the information that's coming out from the Department of Education, to the letters that are going out to the schools about what is their responsibility to be providing during this time. And so it's a really great resource to look at. Also, the Special Education California Department of Education, this is a webinar that they did about the supports and how to roll those supports out. So that might be for occupational therapy, speech therapy, behavioral therapy, all of those, and what they should be looking like. For the kiddos that I advocate for, the parents are finding that the Zoom is really beyond their capacity to sit down and get any educational value from. And this is what we're really looking at, is how are they accessing their education? Are they able to access it in the format in which it is being distributed to them? And for a lot of kiddos, it's very disruptive to them. So we've had great success in requesting that pre-recorded videos be given to the children. And some of them come from things that already exist on YouTube from other teachers. Some of them are being created from the teachers. Some of them are just recorded sessions of the Zoom session the teacher is doing with the rest of the class. And this way the child can chunk out that information, go back and repeat it, so they can be pre-taught, taught, and retaught. And this is really important for our kids, especially if they have a comorbidity of ADHD. And so there's a lot of strategies that we can look at if we are talking about that the school is going to have some hybrid of in-classroom training of new concepts, and then support at home of those concepts and learning at home. And so those are things that we should be thinking about, is how are we going to ensure that our children are getting access to their education. Not just is it being given to them, but can they access it in the format in which it is being distributed. All right, if we can go on to the next one. And I am all about discussion, so I know that we have the format that you're going to ask the questions at the end, but this is one of the questions that I would like for you to think about. So when I am done with my presentation, we can talk about it. Is what is the challenges that are facing you when it comes to supporting your child who receives special education services with distant learning? And let's talk about that and have what has worked, so that other people can maybe learn from that and request that from their school. And also, what can we look at in supporting them? All right, so let's go on to the next slide. So with my kids and with my, in my practice, I really am talking about maintenance. we're just maintaining skills that the child already had. And this is going to be really important. And I also would highly recommend that in these IEP meetings that are coming up and that we're doing on Zoom, and if you haven't had one, certainly request one from your school. The latest information from the Office of Education from the US is that these meetings should continue. And best practices is that these meetings should continue. And we're looking at next year. And when they're offering you FAPE, they should be offering you FAPE as if it is a full-time next year, and not just going back to the original IEP is what most of the schools are going to do. It's going to revert from that emergency IEP for distance learning, and it's going to revert back to that one that you had last year. And that's great. But we also want to ensure that we're getting testing so that we have the current present levels, right? That those present levels, are they still the same as they were back in March or whenever they were tested last? Or has there been regression? Is there a need for additional support? Is there a need for that support to be given in a different manner because of this? And if we argue that whatever we're requesting is because of this disruption in their education, we have a much stronger support, a much stronger argument for getting that information or getting those changes and that increase in minutes that we want. So this is something that I'm giving to my clients. We're looking at math skills. We're looking at what is working. And I think that this can also be a really positive time for parents. If you've been arguing with the school that I need to have my child needs to be given this service in this manner, and the school's been pushing back on you, if you collect data and you go in and you say, here's the data, I did what I've been asking with my child. When I sat down with them and I did math this way, or when I did reading this way, or when I gave them a token board, or when I gave them a this first that, then that, or whatever that strategy is, and you are working with your child at home and you have data and you write it down and you go into the school and say, I have data that proves that this was working, and then they are more likely to start giving that. So this can be a really good time to look at what is working and what isn't working for our kiddos, and go back to the school with a much stronger argument and data that backs that up. Thank you. Learning resources. And next slide. So for those of you that just need a break because, you know, KPBS, and I don't know if you've known this, KPBS has aligned their children's programming with the core curriculum. They have partnered with the California Department of Education, and so their core curriculum standards are now aligned, and on that link is a link to KPBS, and it's divided by age groups. And so you can either record those, or I don't know what you do anymore, but anyway, that you can watch those over and over. And I know for my children, repeating it over and over and over and over, and watching a video that takes out that human component has been tremendous growth for them in the areas of social play and playing appropriate with toys. The Ryan's World of this little boy who plays on YouTube videos with toys and does a review has been tremendously successful in helping my children learn to play. Okay, next one. For kids that are a little bit older or like science or like to do projects and stuff, National Geographic has some amazing programming for kids, and these are free resources. Okay, next one. And on this one is free links for educational resources. Now, all of those that are listed on there, they should be from your school. If your school hasn't provided you a password and username for those, then reach out to your school and get them. But there's probably 75 on that resource link for children to look at different things. So many museums around the world are offering virtual tours, and it's just amazing, the resources. And for me, this was one of the really great things to come out of this, is I saw how many people reached out and opened up their vaults of information and resources and started sharing them with everybody around the world for free. And I don't look at repetitive behavior as a bad thing. I look at it as a way that we can utilize to enter into our children's world, to be able to give them those things that they love, find that passion, and find out what drives them, and then learn how to use that tool so that they can find success in other areas. All right, next slide. So here's some parent resources that I find in my practice very, very helpful. And not everyone can have an advocate, but there are many wonderful advocates out there. And if you Google special education advocates, you're going to come up with a gazillion of them. I am always there. Check out my website to offer advice. But understood.org, if you have not utilized them as a resource, I highly recommend that you do. There is so much information about how your child's disability negatively impacts their ability to access their education. And those are what we want to look at. And the more that you know about how your child learns, the more effective that you can be as an advocate. Part of my role as an advocate is to teach parents how to advocate for themselves, and ultimately to teach the student how to advocate for themselves and say, this is how I learn and this is what I am. We own in our household that we are a household with 2 neurotypical people in it and 2 non-neurotypical people in it. And we talk about that often. And my children are 6, 8, and 9. And we own it and we talk about it. And it is not a disability, it is a difference. Okay, and so there's a lot of resources on understood.org that would tell you how do I go about getting requesting information, and there's a lot of form letters in there that would help you to write out what it is that you want if you're not sure how to go about doing those things. Okay, next slide. COPA, I am a member of COPA and I graduated their year-long, very, very intensive class on special education advocacy. And it is a great organization. Question can become members. It is the Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates, and they have a question and answer board that you can email attorneys and advocates all over the country and ask them questions. A Day in Our Shoes. This is a woman that I really like her website and I really like her Facebook page. And if you haven't heard of her, she's a really great resource. I like the way that she presents the information, and it is presented in a very logical way, and it is a very helpful website, and I refer to her a lot. Okay, next slide. And here's just a list of different kinds of activities. If you're having to do that occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy at home, in different ways that you can utilize it. And this was just a resource that I found from Easter Seals. Next slide. Same for speech and speech resources at home and how to do that. For kiddos who are getting speech therapy and they're not accessing it well, again, those pre-recorded speech therapy sessions that they can go over and over, and that builds your library as a parent, that you can keep going back to them and they can keep re-watching these. And so they don't just get a lesson one time for 30 minutes, they can access that lesson over and over and over and over and over. And I think that this could be a really strong tool to have in our arsenal for our kiddos. Next slide. Virtual meetings. So this link on here is to A Day in Our Shoes, and she has some really great tips on how to be effective advocate for your child in your IEP meetings, and I really like some of her strategies. Next slide. This is the governor, and this is going to be an old link because he's going to be rolling out some new timelines and strategies for when schools will be reopening. I believe that's next week. And I believe that the next slide is the end of my presentation. Look, I did it in 20 minutes. Yay! I'm really not good at doing that. I really talk a lot, but I tried so hard today because I wanted you to be able to ask any questions that you can, remembering that I'm not offering legal advice. An advocate and an attorney do very, very different jobs. My job is, as an advocate, is to go to the school and to find that common ground and to build those relationships between parents and schools to ensure that we are working as a team, that the parents have meaningful participation. And meaningful participation doesn't mean that you get your concerns put in that little box that says parent concerns. Meaningful participation means you had your issues discussed and we came up with a plan of action, whether that is to put something in place to support the child or to give more testing or to look at how that is done. So my two pieces of advice before we go to questions is that, number one, we change the dialogue around behavior to be a manifestation of their disability and tie it back to their disability. And that drives services, that drives supports, that drives goals. And also additionally that do not sign that piece of paper that says attendance until you have participated in the meeting. Tell them that you are happy to sign that piece of paper that noted that you participated in the meeting once that you know that you have actually had participation. All right, that's it. Now, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All of this is like super helpful. I took a lot of notes while you were talking, but I have to say, I loved what you said about maintenance. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on parents right now at home with their kids to be growing their kids to be learning every day. And we're, like you said, we're now the teacher and we're their emotional support and we're also their parent and all of that. And I feel like it's such a good reminder that even if you can just maintain where your child is at, then you're doing a great job.
Absolutely.
They don't necessarily have to be learning something new every day or growing or showing progress in that sense. And that just removes a lot of pressure for a lot of our families. That's the one thing, and there's a lot of things that stuck out from what you shared, but I really loved that. And I'd love to open it up. We have like 3 minutes left, so if you have a question for Michelle, you can unmute yourself or wave your hand, or if you have a comment. I did see a comment here in the chat from Jeff Snyder earlier. He said, it's important that those on an IEP go through the transition back into school slowly. Their minds will have already been in distance learning mode and will need time to get back to regular learning. I think that's
and so
really
in answering that, I request for my clients and my own son who may not have qualified previously for extended school year, that they qualify for extended school year based on this very factor of that we need to bring it back slowly. And because there hasn't been any grading or requirement to participate in this extended learn or this e-learning or distance learning or whatever schools are referring to. So next year when we have this, and this certainly will be a part of it, there will be that expectation that the schoolwork will be graded. And so we need to make that transition as easy for them as possible. And extended school year is a great way to do that. Some schools are saying that they will have something on campus, and others are saying that it's still going to look like something online. But to be able to have them start transitioning, because typically extended school year is a shorter period of time, 3 to 4 hours maybe. And I think that that's really a great option to ask your school for.
I think another point that you made, Michelle, that I just wanted to highlight was the fact that all of our kids are so different. All of our kids learn so differently. And it's a great time right now while we're at home with them to be able to kind of see what can the future look like for our kids. It doesn't have to be in any one way or any one kind of box. Maybe moving forward, it can look a little different or be a little different according to what the parent or the caregiver thinks could be the right fit for their kiddos. And I think that's also very helpful.
Yeah, and I think that schools are really opening up to that option and seeing that as well as a possibility where, you know, home teaching was very much out of the norm, and now I think that that's not it. That's not the thing. But I would also say to parents, look at your child. Sometimes we have the tendency to look at all that our child cannot do. I would say turn that around and look at their strengths. What are they good at? James is so good at reading. So instead of trying to teach him about how to be empathetic and how to understand other people, I have him read books, and he internalizes that so much more than having a conversation about it, even about role play. And I'm big on talking about empathy and how would that make you feel. And if I could just share one thing that I think really, and I'm going to really try not to cry, but I probably will. But one thing that really emphasized how incredibly difficult it is for some of our kiddos to comply and to meet with social demands of school is I was talking to James, and during this transition, he really became dysregulated, and he started to act out against his brothers and hit them and bite them and scream and yell, and he was really having a difficult time. And so we all sat down, and I talked to him, and I said, James, how would it make you feel? And he had told Alex, who is my neurotypical child, that he hates him and he doesn't want to be his brother. And it really upset Alex because Alex is very protective of him. And I said, James, how would that make you feel? And I could see his whole body get tense and get really upset and angry. And I said, James, I asked you a question. Please answer me. He said, I'm thinking of the right words. So I gave him a minute. And then he said to me, after I asked again, he said, I would feel like I was freed from slavery. And that hit me in such a way that, and it made me understand how oppressive that it can feel to our children to have to comply with normality, with what we as neurotypical people see as normal. To them can sometimes be as onerous as slavery. And so let's not forget that. Let's look at how they interact with the world and how can we teach them to be able to be happy and to accept who they are and to be proud of it, but to also understand that the rest of the world maybe views things differently.
Well, Michelle, we're going to end it there. We're like 3 minutes over, but I just have to
Sorry.
say thank you so much. No, we're good. I just want to respect everyone's time. And if you had a question for Michelle, didn't get answered today, we're going to be sending a follow-up email to everyone today, and it'll include Michelle's direct email and all the links from the PowerPoint that she shared. Thank you for sharing from your heart today and sharing about your boys. And I think all of us can relate to what it's like being a parent at home during this time. And I loved every single word that you all shared earlier when Dana asked you to share a word of positivity: resilient, connected, change, community, loved, hope, gratitude, beauty, grounded. Thank you for sharing those, you guys, and we hope to see you all next week. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak with you. Have a great day.
Have a great day.